Morning, Ditha.
Good morning. You know, I really enjoyed that museum so much.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, your photography is just amazing.
Yeah, I've had lots of practice.
Well, it shows. I loved
Yeah,
it. And I love
yeah.
the way you give context to it by taking up close and then going back and showing the whole tray.
Yeah,
Hello, Jerry.
hi, Jerry.
Oh,
Hi,
hi, Jerry.
Joel. Hi,
Hi.
Claudia.
Hi.
Hello, everybody.
Good to see you again, Claudia.
Yes.
Thank you. Good to see you all.
Good.
Oh, you look terrific, Claudia. That's sweet.
Thank you.
I should have
Well,
dressed for the occasion.
you did.
Well, yes, I did.
Uh, well, we can start with any best moments or questions anyone has. I do have a Russell Chi exercise to show and a couple of things to get started with after that. So, any best moments?
Gosh, I've had so many.
True. It's hard to define just one best moment when every moment of every day is a best moment. I mean, it really is.
I've gotten such new understandings this last couple of weeks because of the challenges that I've had. And I wrote this morning. The whole point of the work is to remember yourself always and everywhere, to transform negative impressions into conscious ones, and in doing so, help to alleviate the overall vibration, to elevate, not alleviate, to elevate the overall vibration of humanity, thereby giving our Almighty Common Father a positive return for our being.
Woohoo!
Ah,
There it is in
Jerry's
a
helping me.
nutshell.
Well, Jerry's been really helping me a lot with updating my kind of nebulous ideas of the higher centers. So thank you, Jerry.
You know, I have just a comment too about that. It's because I don't want to claim I'm an enlightened being. I'm not an enlightened being. But the thing is, once you've been through Russell's program, you see all the stuff where you fall down on your face, right? It's like what you have to work on is so obvious and so ordinary, and it's not rocket science, and it's not special. It's just, oh, yeah, this is what I need to work on today. It's right in my face, and it's sort of straightforward, and I love that aspect of it. That we're not bothered so much anymore by um, inconsequential stuff. We really are trying to pay attention to our state, to remember ourselves, and to be kinder, more present human beings. And that's it.
Indeed. When I go to town, which is about once a week or once every 2 weeks, I set myself a task. And usually it's something like only say what you need to say, no unnecessary chatter, no
Why is this thing
opinions,
cutting in and out so much? Shit.
no listen, no, don't embellish if you're talking to anybody. So I'll set myself some kind of task. And it's amazing how, during the process I'll remember to do it, or I'll remember that I forgot to do it. And so, but it's very helpful to do that because it keeps me on my toes and keeps me trying to strive for all those things. Over.
Yeah. Jerry.
Yeah, this question, are you conscious, is a really interesting one because the impact of awakening the higher center was the realization not that I was conscious, but that I was a machine.
Yeah.
Oh my God, it's incredible. I'm the owner. I'm the owner of this. incredible six-sided apparatus. Uh, and the my task is not to be driven by it, but like Pam was saying, to use it in a way that enables me to transform energies. Uh, people people who know me probably get tired of me talking about the incredible Himalayan cedar in my front yard. It's a couple of hundred feet tall, and it just sits there. But it takes in sunlight, water, and a carbon dioxide, and produces oxygen that it needs to metabolize carbohydrates. It also produces seeds, carbohydrates, through the process of photosynthesis, and it's just doing what it's doing. But on this Himalayan cedar, I've got these wonderful gray squirrels that run up and down and eat the nuts and the cones, and they're birds that make a nest in this tree. And those squirrels and those birds can neither produce oxygen nor produce the carbohydrates that it eats, right? They now I'm sure, I'm pretty sure, in my conversations with this Himalayan cedar that it's not aware that the efforts that it makes through photosynthesis, which are basically enable it to survive and reproduce, has no idea that the excess of those substances go to enable higher life forms, organisms to exist. I'm absolutely positive that it's not aware of its role, and I think that the same applies to us. We're a part of the food chain. We're a part of this reciprocal maintenance, and when we make an effort to remember ourselves, like Deetha was saying, and transform negative emotions. We create the substances that enable our higher centers to function. Right. Woohoo! That's pretty cool. All right. They, but I've never, I've never met the higher form of life that I actually believe is sustained by this transformation of energies. So they so yeah. So are you conscious? Well, I'm a machine. And it just like every other three-brain being on the planet, they it's these mechanical apparatuses that enable me to live in the material, to be present in the material world. So, thank you.
Woohoo! Oh, I wanted to say, Jerry, that I appreciated the other comments you made the other day about that, which was Jerry commented that it's quite remarkable that we people who are very ordinary, not terribly brilliant, um, quite ordinary folks have this opportunity to become more aware. And he was saying, well, maybe it's because so many people over hundreds of years now have made these efforts, and those energies are in the air. And if you play the board game, you realize that we're not going anywhere on this transforming energies job if there weren't higher energies in the air. And so, just like the cedar makes oxygen, I think there have been human beings who put out those energies that enable us to be more present and to do our job better. So uh, that's really quite wonderful to think that we might be able to help with that as well. And maybe in the future, more human beings will be able to be more present, be kinder, uh, do their jobs better, and stop being such idiots in the worst sense. Etha.
I just wanted to share something I learned from Jerry last Thursday that was very germane. I had had a meltdown and battled with overwhelming fear, emotional fear. And one of the byproducts of it, I was so disappointed in myself, so-called conscious being upset and allowing it to overwhelm me. Like, surely, if I was a conscious being, that wouldn't happen. And he very wisely pointed out to me that we're here. Rejoice if you have a meltdown. Rejoice if all of a sudden something blindsides you and you don't know what to do, because we're here simply to change that, to recognize it, overcome it, and change it into a positive thing. To not be we're not here to be perfect. We're not here to be examples of brilliant people. We're here to do the work of a 3-story factory. And if we do it well, we will contribute. That's it. Over and out.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thanks. Yeah, thanks, Steve. Thanks, Rick. Uh, so I want to piggyback a little bit on what Deetha just said. So these ideas are so remarkable. They actually enable a person to reason about things. And I happen to be thinking about perfection. And I realized from the point of view of the work story, perfection is what initially created the difficulty for the absolute that required him to change the laws of 3 and the law of 7. The law of 3 and the law of 7 are all united. Things were perfect, but oh my God, the dwelling place of the absolute was diminishing in volume because of this perfection. So, in changing the laws of 3 and the law of 7, what does the absolute do? The result of those changes creates the universe, and I think it's safe to say that the universe can be described, or the essence, the quintessence of the essence, is that of imperfection, the separation of forces, chaos. Right? Oh my God. It turns out on an incredibly high level that imperfection is serves a purpose. It keeps something from diminishing in volume. Oh my God. Isn't that amazing?
I love it.
So yeah, right. And then Rick, the other, yeah, thanks for the uh, uh, the comment about the accumulation of these higher substances through the efforts of humanity. We've got this incredible analogy called evolution, right? And there was a point in the evolution of organic life in which the atmosphere, there was no oxygen, none, none. In fact, it was the organisms that existed at the time. Oxygen was a potent poison, right?
Yep.
Uh, and it took millions of years for photosynthesis to accumulate enough oxygen for these higher levels of life, two brain beings, animals, to exist. Took millions and millions of years for that for the oxygen to accumulate and to make this possible. Oh my God! So what about the evolution of humanity? Oh, okay. It may not take a long as long uh, uh, because the three brain beings are capable of conscious evolution and therefore capable of speeding up the process a bit. But it certainly occurs to me that something like this over the last 200,000 years of approximately of three brain beings, these higher substances have accumulated. And because they've accumulated, our second being food has improved, and when we learn to eat when we breathe, we can actually take in these substances, and this three-story food factory is able to produce the full complement of substances that it is capable of producing. So yeah. So when I remember myself and do the threefold attention exercise or do some work on myself, they I recognize that okay, I'm producing substances that I need for my centers to function. They take fuel, take energy, right? And that if I do a little bit more than what I need, then that excess accumulates and goes into the atmosphere and enables a Joe Coble to deal with his lambs a little better.
We hope.
If I could, I'll respond. There's so much, sort of good and bad. I wish it was all good every now and then, but you know, the lambs, some of them, I've had stillbirths and I've had twins. And I think that's pretty normal, apparently. So you can't, or I can't stop that. The tragedy and the joy and the tragedy. I mean, a stillbirth is really, really hurts, or one that lives a little while and then dies. Ugh, it really hurts. So I think what it feels like it's pounding on my heart, which is better than having a cold, frozen heart. And then there's the joy every now and then when they survive and the moms take care of the lambs. So, and okay, so having said all that, that's sort of, but I don't think I could stand doing all that if I didn't have the work to kind of, or Jerry or somebody saying this, that, hey, this is normal. This is the way it's supposed to be. It's not supposed to be perfect. It's supposed to be a mix of good and bad. To everything, there is a season, a time to be born and a time to die. So I think the work is telling me that's okay. It may be hard, but we're that. And then okay, so then I guess I hope that I am helping out in a sort of some general way of transforming the atmosphere of human beings, or that I don't think of it as the actual carbon dioxide and oxygen and nitrogen, but the feelings of people in the world. I kind of think of that. Gee, this is really, gosh knows what's creating these attitudes and this hysteria here and this exuberance here and this celebration of spirit there. I just don't know, but I hope that my little, trying to change my attitude about these things helps out. But that's, I hate to say it's a matter of faith, but I guess I would. It's a matter of faith on my part that that's actually helpful. For me, I can say, okay, well, I feel better thinking that I'm helping or that I'm transforming these upsets into something a little more tolerable. So I feel good about myself, but whether it's helping out or not, like the tree producing oxygen, I don't, I hope so. It kind of makes sense. I I wish I knew.
Yeah, Jerry.
Oh, thanks, Joel. What you were saying reminded me of an experience that I had when I taught in prison. I taught a life skills program. And when I first entered the yard in a prison, the atmosphere was so negative. I don't regard myself as a very sensitive, as very sensitive. But even at my level of sensitivity, I could cut the negativity with a knife. It was profound. They and it was really quite incredible. Uh, they However, this class that I taught was quite remarkable, put together by a remarkable person. And the atmosphere in the classroom was totally different. Totally different. And the students love to come to class simply to have that experience, to be free of this heavy atmosphere that they would encounter when they went back to their housing unit. So I think you're absolutely right. Is that we can in a very infinitesimal and tiny way, but but regardless, I think these efforts to transform energies do enhance the atmosphere that people breathe. So thank you, Joe.
That was a great example, Jerry. Thank you. I believe we do too. And I believe that what Russell did for people may make a huge difference in the world eventually. I've been a little discouraged because I think very few people are really interested in the laws of self-development. But those that are, they have an opportunity here to change themselves in ways that wasn't possible before. So I'm very thankful. We're incredibly lucky here, I think. Any other best moments or comments? I've got a couple of things I want to share at the end of chapter 3 before I play Russell's chi exercise. Okay. Let me shrink this.
William raised his hand.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I couldn't see that. Please continue. I'll stop the share. Who's talking?
Maybe it was an accident. I saw William Murray raise a hand briefly and then lowered it.
Oh, okay.
But
I noticed.
actually, my internet's so poor that I don't know how long a conversation I could do. So it was just about, I could give it a try. It was just about the meso area of coincidence. I've been thinking about that. It was quite interesting seeing it as a chord and how it can involve with negative emotions and all kinds of different things, feelings, and how it can get caught up in that cycling in there, that chord that can actually amplify. And I think it eats up energy in the other parts of the body if it starts working, and just letting it pass through. And Gary showed me something. I'm still trying to find it about going back to the beginning of it. You can switch over into the higher emotional center and uh, kind of feel where it came from, which can develop into higher consciousness to actually try to understand what's happening or where it came from. So hopefully you got this or not.
Okay, well, if we get that far, I have a little video on the me-so area of coincidence that we'll do later today if we get that far. And I hope you'll be able to share more about it then. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and share. Right now, I want to share a little bit at the end of chapter 3. So make this a little bigger. Right at the end of chapter 3, in blue here, Russell says, okay, it's pick a center time. And he's saying it's time to start the exercises. So at the end of chapter 3, you know you're qualified to awake, and Russell says you're probably ready to make great efforts. And so this is the time he wants you to start remembering every time you go upstairs or come downstairs, you're going to pick a center, and you're really going to focus for a couple of minutes on being present in that center. And he had you journal it. And so I'm encouraging all of us to remember when we walk out the door, when we go to our cars, to remember to pick a center, be aware of your body or be aware of your emotions. And he talks about, for instance, if you pick moving center, be aware of the efforts you make to climb the stairs. Slow down your movements. He had us try to sneak down the stairs so quietly that Cheetah would not hear you coming. Boy, that was tough because Cheetah was alert. I did it a couple times. So that's something we can do every day. Only takes a couple of minutes and it wakes you up. And he's saying, you need to do this. This is how we fell asleep. We let our centers drop down to their automatic state. And he's saying, don't do that. it's absolutely vital for us to keep our centers fully functioning, or we will not have access to our higher emotional center or the higher mental center, which totally depends on having the higher emotional center. Just as moving center depends on having a body, your instinctive center, you don't have a higher mental center without a functioning higher emotional center. And you don't have that if your lower centers are just living in their jacks. So he's saying, hey, wake up here, pay attention. Every day, exercise all of your lower centers. And here's his example, of valuing emotionally a bathroom. Go ahead and live outdoors for a month and do your business behind a tree. You'll value a bathroom after that. So he says, suck the meaning out of things. So you realize we're talking because we have this incredible thing called the internet, which God knows gives us all kinds of crap, but also gives us the opportunity to study this stuff. So there is so much meaning in every moment, whether you're looking outside at a tree or appreciating your feet on the ground at this moment. It is so rich, our experience, if we pay attention to it. And then he says, okay, you've finished chapter 3, so there's a certain urgency to your efforts. And the reason there's an urgency to your efforts is you're about to do the objective exercise. But this urgency doesn't go away once you've done the exercise. The urgency continues because once you wake up a little bit, you see how much work there is to erase all of the other bad habits you've got and poor information in your centers and all of your love of comfort and everything else that stands in our way of being better humans. And so then he says there's a bonus material, the 5 states of I. And I just wanted to show you that briefly. So here's a picture of the 5 states of I. And later in this chapter 4, we're going to get on to looking at what he called the journey, which is how we move along on here. And so he's saying, okay, here we are. These are shown as the centers on the notes in this one. That is, the centers in this potential, not down yet on the oscillations, which is how they come down into reality, paired in pairs. But still, this allows you to see that if you can unify these 3 centers, there they are. This is scale, so you can see that there is the instinctive, the moving, and the emotional center. And they are necessary to create this higher emotional center, and you need 2/3, so you need your queens working to do this. And if you do wake up your higher emotional center, it's able to step down and become a functioning center over here. So here it is as a functioning center. And look at this. It is above now in frequency your ace of spades, which means you begin to have conscience and you begin to be able to your higher emotional centers notes that a lot of the stuff that goes through your mind, and particularly through the jack of spades, is garbage, or is at best stuff that is not worth wasting your time on. It's babble. And this setter begins to insist that you clean up your Jack and Queen of Spades, that you exercise them, that you stop wasting your time on stuff that doesn't matter, that you start to pay more attention to what does matter, which is being present, remembering yourself, and transforming your reactions. So this is our process. Is this steps down, and your major oscillation connecting your emotional center to your higher emotional center, that's this. That's the tension we go through when we wake up. Okay, this is the Har Laut, so this is the tension here between your conscience, which is noticing that your mechanical self is still the same guy has always been, and these guys are still the guys they've always been, and they all have their bad habits, and you need to do some work. And so there's this long process here called purgatory when slowly you try to clean up the intellectual center. And when the intellectual center is cleared of some of its misunderstandings and conditioning, it can go back and clean up the emotional center, because the emotional center has absorbed all sorts of bad attitudes. And only when the emotional center is cleaned up, and these guys need to be cleaned up too, they're all full of bad habits, only then can this step down and become the emotional part, the queen, if you will, of the higher mental center, so that you can get a functioning intellectual center. Need your queen fully operational, 2/3 here, and this guy gets cleaned up enough that you begin to have 2/3 of your higher mental center functioning. And then, as he says, you begin to reach this place where not a thought stands between you and what is true. That is a possible place to reach. So, any comments on that before we watch his chi exercise? Hi, Veronica. Great to see you. The thing is, as we progress in this stuff, we're still these fully mechanical beings. We have these machines, but it does get quieter inside. And when it gets quieter, new possibilities open. And I'm so thankful for that.
I'm always getting new insights and cleaning up. I mean, it's a never-ending story, isn't it?
Yeah, we have to visit that dumpster every day.
Thank God for meltdowns.
Yeah, yeah. If we didn't have meltdowns, we wouldn't have any straw to turn into gold, would we?
Totally true.
Rumpelstiltskin rules. Those fairy tales were about us, after all. Okay, here we go again. Going to share.
Claudia has a question, Rick.
Oh, okay, Claudia.
Yes, thank you. I was thinking a few minutes already about it, if I should ask the question, but you all are so experienced, so I'm aware of the theory and the explanations about the centers, but working on myself, I feel a huge difference working on my I don't know the English if I'm using the right words, but working with my body center, my working with my mental center, I am in contact and I'm not in contact, but the work with these two centers can take place. Whereas with my emotional center, I usually am very unsecure. Is this really the emotional center, or am I thinking to be in the emotional center? To get clear about that, I would be grateful to hear your experience, what you think about, because this is often a question: am I really feeling this now? Am I in contact with my emotional center, or is it a product of some thoughts of the intellectual center?
That's
Besides the very strong, I mean, I'm very clear when I'm angry that I'm in contact with my emotional center. When I'm really deeply sad, it's clear. But it's the nuances where I struggle.
Okay, I'd
Thank
love
you.
to work on that. I think it's a great question, and I'll also get Jerry involved in answering because I think he's better with the emotional questions than I am. But my experience is it made a huge difference to me when Russell said the emotional center isn't about feelings, it's about meaning. That's a big distinction.
Hmm.
He's saying we mistake feelings uh, for the emotional center, and there's sort of an effect of the emotional center, and there's also effect of the lawyers that get going in our intellectual center, which if we get angry at somebody, they just start repeating everything, and we just follow this whole uh, line that keeps us upset. But the access to the emotional center is through meaning. So, what is important? What matters? And counting your blessings and realizing um, what is really important to you. That's very much different, I think, from thinking it's about feelings. Um, there was another part of this which I'm sure you've read about, which is in Gurdjieff about the two elephants, that the emotional center is a rogue elephant. And so if you want to get your emotional center somewhat under control, first of all, you got to pay attention uh, to your brain, your intellectual center. You got to stop those lawyers that are feeding whatever you're angry or upset or depressed about. You got to stop all those sentences going on. Just shut it up. Say, this is not useful. I'm not going there. I'm going to think about something else. So you get that elephant, the intellectual center, you have some control over that. You can get that one in line. And then the other thing is you watch posture. You watch that TED talk ever about the gal who trained women to go into job interviews. She had them do the Wonder Woman posture. She'd have them go to the bathroom or the toilet room before the interview, and they would stand tall and do the Wonder Woman posture and remember that they are strong human beings who are going to ace this interview, right? And they would get the physical center under control. They would go in there with an expanded chest, an upright posture, and with the thoughts to go ahead and match it. If you get those two elephants on either side of the rogue elephant of your emotions, you have a chance. Okay, Jerry, take it away.
Thank you, Rick.
Sure.
Yeah, thanks, sir. Claudia, do you have a follow-up question to what to what Rick said?
No, it was helpful. I could follow what Rick said, and it's a start. I'm going to work on that. Very helpful, because I think that's a trap to think it's about feelings.
Correct.
And to me, till now, the whole subject of emotional center is not clear. I don't have clarity about it.
So yes, and so they earlier in the class, when Russell talked about picking a center and picking the emotional center, right? He talked about looking at a doorknob and what is the meaning of a doorknob? What is the meaning of stairs? Noticing a tree. What is the meaning, right? So the it was a shock when I went through the program with Russ. He really did emphasize this correlation of emotions with meaning. And Rick, they could you pull up the the three bodies diagram?
Sure, give me a moment. Meanwhile, continue while I get it.
Well, my next comment is based on the diagram.
Oh, well, coming right up here,
Projection.
sir. Three bodies. I know it's
Uh,
there.
well, he's working on the other thing that I particularly when I do the threefold attention exercise, and I bring it in the emotional center. I bring in this feeling of caring, right?
The feeling of carry,
Caring, the feeling of
caring.
caring, right? Okay. And so I typically do the threefold attention exercise while I work on my stationary bike, right? And so I'm making this effort to move my body, and I'm counting, and then I pull out my sensing, and then when I pull out the emotional center, it's become easy. Oh my God, I'm making this effort because I care about my body, and apparently moving is a very important part of taking care of one's body, right?
Mhm.
And so now, and it's gotten quite easy for me to generate this feeling of caring for my body. So they so that may help. All right. Everybody familiar with this diagram?
It's from
Yeah.
chapter 5, by the way, so we will get there.
All right. So the what you have in front of you is absolutely priceless. They and so uh, it can give you an insight into your into your emotional center. So uh, over, can you see my cursor?
No.
Okay, is there some way?
Tell me where to move it.
Okay, so I put it on the dough of the physical stuff.
Right
Uh,
there.
okay, so that's our physical body. That's the material. That's the material body, right? Uh, and it is only able to develop the bottom octave of in the octave of who we are. There's an octave between Ray and me, right? Claudia?
Yes.
Okay. There's an octave between Ray and me, the bottom octave. Yes.
Yes.
Okay. And then there's a middle octave between me and so, and there's a top octave between so and do, right?
Mm-hmm.
But our physical body, our physical body, if we're only in touch with that part of who we are, really only has access to these two centers, sensing and moving.
Mm-hmm.
You see the gap,
Yes.
the me fa in the
Yeah.
physical stuff, right? So
Yeah.
Rick, can you move the cursor to the gap?
Yep, there
Uh,
it is.
Okay, and so we learned that the force at fa prevents the force of the bottom do from getting to the emotional center.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And when you look at humanity, and particularly when you look at the male gender and humanity, it becomes understandable, this lack of emotion, right? They're trapped in the bottom octave.
Mhm.
Unless they have the assisting octave, so put the cursor on the astral stuff. Okay, this is also called the emotional body, okay, or the spiritual body, the astral body. They the development of our physical body is stopped unless we get some assistance from our emotional body, right? And that emotional body, it all has to do with the awakening of our a search for meaning, right? What is this all about, right? I mean, if I just look at the newspaper, it's absurd, right?
Mhm.
Life's but a stage, and we poor players strut and fret our hour upon it, and then are heard no more. It's a tale told by an idiot, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing. But when the emotional body begins to awaken, we start to look for meaning, right? We start to care, right? What am I here for, right? They what's important. And so when you look at that, the movement from a do to re in the emotional body, right? That's where someone begins to question, right? Quest becomes a seeker, right? A seeker of meaning. Is this making sense?
Yes.
Okay. And they that and not everybody feels that, right? They if you look at humanity, there's a large percentage of humanity who are perfectly content to live in that bottom octave between Ray to me and the physical body, right? Okay.
Yeah.
You know, people can uh, can acquire some sort of spiritual need or religious need or a need for meaning or they and when they do, they awaken their emotional body, uh, and they can get to the note re, and the note re, you might describe that as sensing meaning. We begin to have a sense that life is meaningful. We may not be able to articulate exactly what it is, but we have a sense, right? Ray, right?
Mhm.
Sensation, right?
Mhm.
But if you follow the arrows, they uh, 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 astral sensing is experienced in the physical body as emotional meaning, caring. So our emotional center is not really something generated in the octave of the physical stuff. It's actually generated in the instinctive center of our emotional body. Does that help?
Yes.
Right? And so they uh, So when Ross is talking about the emotional center, he's actually talking about the sensing of the emotional body in its instinctive center. And this is where the magnetic center moments are. This is where the best moments are, right?
Mhm.
They this is where they rise. This is where the magnetic center moments arise, right? Okay,
Okay.
and cause people to become seekers of truth, and if they're lucky, right? If they they get up to the note me, right? So Rick, put the cursor on the note me, right? Okay, and the note me, they actually find, okay, they find a teaching and a practice that gives their life meaning. Right? It can be a religion, it can be a spiritual tradition, it can be the fourth way, it can be the 12-step program, all kinds of, it can be it can be marriage enrichment programs for couples, right? Okay. But at the note me, they find a teaching and a practice, and so they are intellectual center isn't something that develops directly either. It all begins with the beginning of the awakening of our mental body. So Rick, put the cursor on the mental stuff. Okay. Okay. All right.
Arrow that way.
Okay. And so that's the second assisting octave, right? We come across ideas, we come across the teaching, we come across a teaching and a practice, and it's the function of our intellectual center to remember that teaching and practice, right?
Mhm.
Okay, it's not, the intellectual center is not about thinking, it's about remembering, right? Okay. And that remembering as that begins to develop, and in the work, this level of this state of I is called deputy steward. As deputy steward, it begins to develop. We begin to experience ourselves as good householders. We have an important place in our families and in our communities and in life, right?
Can I ask?
Okay. So
Uh,
our intellectual center is actually the experience of the beginning of the awakening of our mental body,
Mhm.
the bottom dough, the beginning. Okay. And so this is one of the reasons that Russell's characterizations of the emotional and intellectual center are very different from what we've been exposed to. And so he emphasizes the meaning and the caring of the emotional center, and in the intellectual center, he emphasizes its ability to remember what's important, what works.
Alexander?
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Jerry. That was
I
good.
want,
We're not up
I
to
want
chapter
to,
5 yet, but we'll get there.
Okay.
Yes,
Alex-
Alexander had a
Alexander.
question and Stephen had his hand up for a short time as
Yes.
well.
Right.
my question is about the intellectual center. Uh, for scientists. They are very developed intellectual center, but have they mental body developed too, or it's something other?
Okay. You want to tackle that, Jerry, or should I?
Uh, the the way the way I would answer this is let's go back to the physical stuff and the octave between Ray and me. It's an octave, right? Alexander, an octave, right? Yes. Okay. So there's an octave between Ray and me. If we take the length of that octave and treat it as a totality, that octave, like all octaves that are totalities, have four fundamental points and 3 octaves of radiation, right? And so in this octave between Ray and me, there's a bottom octave, a middle octave, and a top octave, right? Yes, anybody?
I'll agree with you.
Any?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, so
I'll show the picture. Just a second. I've got that here. Let's see. I know where it is. There it is. Okay. Now we're talking about
so
this
Rick,
octave in here.
Rick.
Yeah.
I'd rather not use oscillations.
Okay, I don't have this blown up that way for that.
I'd rather go back to the 3 bodies diagram.
You got it.
Thank you. Okay. So mentally, when you look at this octave between Ray and me, in scale 1, there are 3 octaves of radiation: a bottom octave, a middle octave, and a top octave. And the work says that in the relativity of being, there's a man 1, 2, and 3. Oh my God. Man number 1 is in the bottom octave, the physical octave. Man number 2, the emotional person, is in the middle octave. And Alexander, the scientist, is in the top octave, right? He's in the top octave in this bottom octave in the scale from Ray to me. And his intellectual center and his higher mental center, his reason, are all in this bottom octave. Does that help?
Not sure.
This is why Russell said we never got out of the bottom octave. When you go to do the objective exercise, he says you never got out of this bottom octave here. So everything we're used to calling intellect is usually in here.
There's an intellectual center in that octave, but it's in the bottom octave. Unless you begin to wake up, you really don't experience. Put your cursor on the intellectual center of the physical body. Okay, so people don't even begin to experience their real intellectual center until they begin to wake up, become at least good householders, are following some sort of teaching and practice to become whole and complete, to become the whole and complete human beings that they are. Okay. So the scientists, the intellectual center where the cursor, that isn't functioning. That hasn't been awakened in man 1, 2, or 3, or man number 3, the scientist in the octave between Ray and me.
So they just thinking in the moving center.
Correct. Yeah, the instinctive and moving. Yes, correct. It's all in that. But that octave between the instinctive and moving center is has all the aspects of an octave, and so it has, in addition to it, the instinctive and moving center in that bottom octave, there is an emotional aspect, there is an intellectual aspect, there's even a higher emotional aspect, there's even a higher mental aspect. People, the Pope, very likely is someone in this bottom octave who has developed or awakened the aspect of the higher mental center. Okay. I don't mean to denigrate the Pope. He may be also someone who's spiritually working on himself. But if you look at the history of popes, obviously there have been many popes that never made it out of that bottom octave. And so there can be quite remarkable people in this bottom octave. I just watched a biography of Arnold Schwarzenegger, right? Oh my God, he's Mr. America for 10 years. He really does master the bottom octave in Ray to me, the physical. And then he becomes an actor and becomes an Oscar-winning actor, and oh my God, he really develops the middle octave in this octave between Ray and me, and then he becomes governor of the state of California, right? And actually does a fairly credible job, and the mental. The top octave, the mental develops the mental octave of who he is, but he never makes it out of the bottom octave.
Mhm.
But he's still quite, in terms of the material world, still quite a remarkable in that sense of developing all three of those octaves in that octave between Ray and me.
Okay, thank you.
Man 1, 2, and 3, right? Where are they? Man 1, 2, and 3. The physical man, the emotional man, the intellectual man are all in this octave between Ray and me. And the work says they're all on the same level. It puzzled me for years and years and years. All on the same level. How can that be? Well, they're all in the bottom story of who they are. And until they move over to the assisting octave of the astral stuff and the emotional stuff and begin to look for meaning and find teaching and to practice, it's only then that they begin to move into the middle octave of who they are, the octave between me and so. the second story. Any questions?
Claudia, you
Not for
sound
now.
wicked.
No, it's just I've never heard it put it that way. And so I hear it. I guess I get quite a lot of what was just said, but it has to settle down and I have to digest it. But it absolutely makes sense. And thank you very much for this excellent explanation, Jerry. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Jerry. It's really shocking information.
It's shocking.
Yeah.
So
And
when-
there's so much misunderstanding, like we automatically think about if the word scientists is pronounced, we automatically think these are intellectual people. And they just might have really clever thoughts. And as you said, thinking is about remembering. So the goal is to get trained in remember.
right, to
Yeah.
remember what? To remember who we are.
Yes.
To remember the totality of who we are, and that we're intentionally born in the bottom story. We're born incomplete because there's a need for an organism to evolve intentionally, to evolve through their own understanding, right? Not just mechanically.
Yes, and scientists, yeah, all excuses to all scientists, but they are mechanically scientists. Well, most of them, I guess.
Scientists are focused on the data.
Yeah.
And it's absolutely incredible, you know, that what they've been able to discover by looking at the data. But as Russell has said time and time and time again, knowledge does not wake people up. Knowledge is an important part of our understanding. But unless we develop our being, which has to do with the development of our emotional and mental bodies, right? Unless we complete the octave of who we are and become whole and complete, they we're not really fulfilling the purpose for which three brain beings were over millions of years, an enormous effort went in to the possibility for three brain beings to exist, and it's really understandable. We're sort of like the firstborn child in a family, you know. The firstborn, it's always a little more difficult for the firstborn, right? It's always more difficult when you do something for the first time, right? And so it's totally understandable that when three brain beings began to acquire this reason, they would misuse it and use it for their own comfort and their own security, rather than to self-evolve. Right? Totally understandable. Right? Right.
Geetha.
I don't know whether this will be of any help here, but I wanted to share that Geetha was very emotionally centered. She was a man number 2 and an artist. And her identity was that of an artist. And that's how she walked through the world. And then but also because it was an emotional centered person, I was looking for meaning in everything. Well, once I found the work and worked with Russell for many, many, many years, I all of a sudden was no longer identifying as an artist. I was a person who could do art, but it was not my niche anymore. I can still do art, not as good because my eyes suck, but yeah, I know. But by expanding beyond it and traversing up the different octaves, the world is so much bigger. It isn't that a scientist and his understanding and his little niche of where he is isn't produce remarkable stuff, but it's just a niche. And if he wants to become a total human, he has to go and traverse the whole octave. That's all I've got to say. I hope it made any kind of sense.
Okay, let's see. We haven't covered any of the material I was going to cover, but that is just fine because this has been a great discussion. I want to say that this wonderful three body diagram is crucial. You do need to understand chapter 5 and the essential necessity for assisting octaves becomes when that becomes really part of you, then it's clear what Jerry is saying, that if you don't use that astral material in the mental body, you're stuck in the bottom story. And there is no information out there other than Russell's work that talks about the need for assisting octaves. And Russell nails it very specifically and allows us to see that it's true because it's got a nice mathematical foundation. Would you like to hear the chi exercise?
We
Just have a
would.
little taste of Russell before we go.
I have to head out. I have an obligation that just came about. So thank you all. I'll see you next week.
Love you, Pamela.
Pamela, love you
too.
lots.
Oh, I just wanted to throw this one thing in. We have to, we're not going to really experience true meaning until we wake up and we get rid of all the false things that are inside of us. Like Joel mentioned, when the lambs are stillborn or he has sadness, that's true meaning because you feel for the loss of this little being. And then when you have twins born, well, you feel such joy because you get to see the life of two beings. So you watch television and you see these false emotions, these unreal emotions, this imitative emotions. I watch TV and I'm amazed at how wrong the Hollywood writers get real emotion. They don't really know what it is actually. So you can't go by things like that. And I know that before I found the work and before I woke up, I would imitate those things, thinking that that was emotion. We had one student come through here who said, "Oh, emotion! I know what emotion is. I can tell you about emotion. I had this emotion back in my other school that it took 3 men to hold me down." Well, see, that's not emotion. That's moving center. So emotion is when you find something that has true meaning. When something touches you at the heart, it can be anything. Literally, it can be absolutely anything. Something that really touches you. It gets absorbed by your being. I mean, there are commercials that I can watch and I'll just start crying because it's such a beautiful message that it's trying to portray. So yeah, meaning it's all about meaning and getting rid of all the false stuff like depression, for instance. You could have a chemical imbalance and have depression. There's no doubt about it. But usually depression is from the lower story where a bunch of eyes have gotten collected and they've joined up and they think that that's going to be the answer to whatever the situation is. I'll get depressed over it. It's just a lower story. That's not emotion. That's not real. But yes, people do experience depression for various reasons. But there's so much joy in the world and there's so much love, and everything is distorted right now in the world. And if we can see that distortion and not identify with it, but have compassion for the situation and realize that everybody's living in their lower story and they can't help being what they are. And we can have compassion for the situation and let it touch us, that we are able to rise above it and also be able to experience real meaning. So those are all really, really good things. You can't go by what you see on TV and what people say, how you're supposed to, like a lot of psychologists will say you're supposed to go through this and go through that. It's just all nonsense. But anyway, I love you all. See you next week.
Thank you,
Look
Pam.
forward to
Pam.
it.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
Pamela. And now for our favorite, Mr. Russell. Let's see.
Next one's called Chi. Chi is a wonderful little exercise that can be done everywhere. Sitting on the plane, standing in the line, at the grocery store. The name Chi was just given to me. I don't know if we can relate it to the ancient art of Chinese energy, but it's kind of like that. There's a model of self-remembering that we try to remember too big of things, right? We want to remember ourselves and remember this big thing. Mm-hmm. In truth, you'd be better off remembering the little thing, making a little thing in self-remembering. Little things can get remembered, big things are too big. I suppose that one of the models to use would be, you've seen the old war movies, cowboy Indian movies, right? Everybody's watched enough of those in their life. Mm-hmm. Do you remember the scene, that just about in every one of them, where they're surrounded by the Indians, or surrounded by the Mexicans, or surrounded by the Germans, or somebody, and they're caught in, but they always figure this out. One guy can get through. We can send one guy. If we send a lot of guys, they'll get spotted. Mm-hmm. But one guy, you see, we can send one guy. One guy can make it. He can sneak through the lines. He can get past. That's what Chi is about. Finding one guy. One guy to become higher. One guy to self-remember. One guy to get through instead of the whole army. Now, self-remembering in our food diagram is talked about as the impressions becoming higher. And we get from Ouspensky a model of what an impression is. An impression is the smallest ingredient or increment of either a thought, a feeling, or a sensation. The smallest bit of one of those is an impression. So we only have to find a small one and let it become higher. And so to do that, we do what I call Chi. And the way we do it is, we take our middle finger and our thumb on both hands, and we start with them about, a half inch apart. And then without looking at them, we start to draw them together and close the gap. And we know it's being closed. We don't know when it's going to touch. But we know the moment that the finger comes in contact with the thumb, that will be one little teeny impression. And in the process, I'm waiting, and there's an anticipation that builds. It feels like my fingers have already moved a foot and they haven't touched yet. But I know they're going to sooner or later. And slowly but surely I approach them, knowing that they are moving. They haven't reached it. It feels like they should have by now, but I'm waiting, and I'm waiting, and I'm waiting. And all my focus now is waiting, looking at that moment when those fingers are going to come together. Mm-hmm. And then there might be a moment when one of them touches and your arm jerks. You feel electricity just move up your body, down your back, into your head somewhere. It's almost make you leave the chair, because everybody's waiting for this one little thing to happen. And the moment that it does, there's an impulse of that little teeny impression being registered, that little tiny sensation. Sometimes it'll make you jump, just there it is. Then you break contact and you do it again. Then we stand in the grocery line, waiting on the clerk. And you bring your fingers and you just drop them down beside yourself and you start drawing them together and you're waiting. You're waiting, and then there's that sensation. A little teeny guy, one little small piece is made higher. One little guy is amplified out of all proportion to its own little sensation because of the focus and the anticipation and the waiting. And the waiting. Everybody stops, it's waiting, and then there's the touch. There's the sensation. Little teeny impression. Little guy gets through. Got it?
Okay, we got 5 minutes left. We could see what we are about to cover next, since we didn't cover much today. We just looked at what was at the end of chapter 3. And what we have coming up is chapter 4. And we got off into mostly discussing about assisting octaves, which is chapter 5. But oscillations come first because we get trapped in the oscillations. So I guess the only thing I could say is let's just take a real quick look at perhaps what's lined up for next time. So we just talked about last time that there are such things as major and minor oscillations, and we're going to talk about that in more detail. But before we get into it, I thought we should break it down into something personal. So we look at moving these centers down from being on the notes to being on the oscillations. And when we do that, now we find that they are linked in dualities, and that makes a difference. And we talk a little bit about that, and we can talk about how that's just how the atom is built. And the meso area of coincidence turns out to be where all these forces that physicists say hold our world together, gravity, electromagnetism, the Weak's force and the strong force, they're all in this meso interval. That's what holds everything together in the universe. And so that's useful to look at, and it's useful to see how that affects the journey. So this is the journey that Russell laid out for us in an email about how we can move up and actually develop these other centers. And then we will get on after that journey to actually looking up, well, we won't actually get to protein synthesis probably next time, but we'll look a little bit at tRNA, DNA, and protein synthesis as examples of oscillations. Because Russell did not want you to take anything on his say-so. He wanted to demonstrate that this stuff is real and has real physical consequences. So there's a look ahead for next time.
For the scientist in all of us.
Oh, and I didn't actually share any of that, did I? I was looking at pictures on my screen, but I didn't share it, did I?
All right.
That's okay.
That's okay.
Gave you a verbal preview anyway. Folks, thank you so much. Jerry, thank you so much for your explications. And,
Yes.
I love the fact that this is a team teaching, and it makes it much richer.
I'd like to say, Veronica, it's good to see you.
Yeah, hi, Veronica. Great to see you.
At least half of your face.
And Tony, if you want any of this information sent to you, I don't know who you are. I don't have your email address. But if you send it to me, you've got mine. And I'll be happy to connect you up to this information so you can have it for yourself. Okay.
Thank you, Rick. Thank you, Jerry.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks
Love
all.
you all.
Great to see
Bye-bye.
you,
Have a good
Volker.
day.
Thank you all.
Great to see you, Claudia.
Bye bye.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Bye.
much.
Bye.